You had a pretty rough childhood, a very interesting childhood. I'd really love for people to hear more about it. Maybe you can just describe a little bit, where were you born and where were you raised and who was your dad?
I was born in Cairo and grew up in the Gaza Strip for a few years as a child. The reason I was in Gaza was Egypt ruled Gaza at that time in the 50s. And my father headed the Egyptian military intelligence in Gaza. And their job, the Fidayeen, was to just attack Israel. That started in the 50s. A lot of people don't go back to that history of attacks on Israel since the 50s. I grew up with the propaganda, the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic propaganda, horrendous. Most of it were lies. We were told that Israelis want to kill Arab children, and that's why we have to kill them. So they justify the attacks on Israel by claiming that Israel is killing Arab children. And I believed it. I believed all that.
What was your dad's name? And can you explain what is Fidayin for those who've never heard that word before?
Yeah. My father is Colonel Mustafa Hafiz, and he headed the Egyptian military intelligence in Gaza. And the word Fidayin means men who are ready to self-sacrifice, to do jihad against enemies of Allah. Who are the enemies of Allah? Anyone who's not a Muslim are the enemies of Allah. Jews, Christians, pagans, whoever is not a Muslim. And even among Muslims, they consider people who don't follow the Sharia or are also traitors. Like if you don't adhere to Sharia, you don't cover your head, you could be attacked. So this is how we grew up. It was constantly looking at the enemies of Islam, constantly looking for what's behind. Who do we attack next because they hate us?
When you're a little girl, your family moved to Gaza.
Yes.
Was Gaza under the control of the Israelis, and that's why you guys felt like, or your family felt like they had to attack Israel? Or so it was under the control of the Egyptians?
Absolutely.
Why was your dad and the Fedayeen attacking Israel? What was the purpose of
He was the head of the Fedayeen. My father headed the Fedayeen. He was one of the founders of the Fedayeen. And they were attacking Israel from two fronts. One from Gaza, the Egyptians, and one from Jordan. The head of the Fedayeen attacks in Jordan was an Egyptian. A lot of people don't know that. So Israel was getting hit by many fronts. So that was in the 50s. In the 50s, Israel didn't occupy Gaza. Israel didn't cause any trouble on its own unless it's attacked. So a lot of what we grew up with that, it's the Jews who are attacking us, so they can justify the attacks. But the truth was completely lies. It was all lies. I grew up in lies.
Your dad was killed by the Israelis. Is that correct?
My father was a good soldier. He was a strategist in the war. He was a top official. So Nasser put him in Gaza because that was the most dangerous place on Egyptian borders. And he told him, your job is to just destroy Israel as much as you can. That was the job. So he started the Fedayeen operations under the instructions of Nasser. And the Fedayeen used to go into Israel and kill civilians. They were not just going in to fight soldiers like them. They were going into homes and attacking families.
And that wasn't for the purpose of freeing the Gazans, because
No,
the
but
Gazans were not
Gaza-
living under the Israelis.
At that time, Gaza at that time was under Egyptian control. If you look at the map of Gaza, Gaza is just a big city. It's a large city, but it's really not a country. It doesn't belong to any country officially. So Gaza was the front line of the jihad against Israel. You have to go through Gaza. And so that's the situation, that a lot of people don't understand that Gaza is not a country on its own.
You went to school there. What was it like? What was school like in Gaza?
Well, I went to Gaza elementary schools, and every morning my classmates and I would recite jihadist poetry daily. And the poetry was all about dying and going to war and killing ourselves in the war while we're killing Jews. It was very powerful on me as a child to see all the girls saying this poetry and crying, and like somebody is hurting us. But it's all programming of children. We were being programmed to feel as victims. This is since the 50s. Before, Israel was never occupying Gaza at that time. But Gaza had a purpose from the very beginning. Gaza's purpose was not to become the Singapore of the Middle East. Gaza's purpose was not to do what's in the best interest of its citizens. Gaza's purpose was not to flourish and become a vibrant area of the Middle East. Gaza's purpose was to constantly attack Israel. That is all the purpose of Gaza. And that's what we were told in school as children, that our pride, our purpose in life was to go just kill Jews.